Lumberjack Jake coming at you. My wife said this morning, she's like, you know what, Jake, you look like a lumberjack. You know what? Why would I not want to look like a lumberjack while doing hair? Well, you know what? It is what it is. In today's video, guys, I have got a haircut that, some of the youth are saying it's a long pixie. Basically, it's just a grown out pixie. I'm gonna show you how to do that. If you were to cut your hair super short, like a pixie, and you decide to grow it out, guess what you're gonna have? You're gonna have a long pixie. That is right. So in today's video, it's coming right up. I'll see you in just a second. All right, guys, so when it comes down to doing this specific haircut, what we wanna do is we wanna divide between the bottom and the top half. Essentially, this would be the sides, but you're gonna see how this, and let's just kind of cruise around and check out where this parting is at. But you've got from this temple that goes all the way down, dips down right above the occipital, and then back up towards the top on this other side. So what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be cutting this side length about 2 inches. Now, how I wanna do this is I'm just gonna be coming into this just like so, and I just really want to cut off this length just like so, okay? Everything is like 90 degrees from the head. So, and we're not gonna be creating any more length in the front towards the back. Everything is gonna be cut off. So I'm gonna start off, as you can see, I just started that first section. We're now just gonna continue this all the way around the head. Now what we're gonna do is, since we've actually cut that left side, we're gonna move on to the right side. Now, before I begin, I wanna show you that I went all the way past the center portion back through here, and then I'm gonna come all the way down through this area to connect both of those sides through here. So let's go ahead and start this side, 90 degrees from the head. Let's just go ahead and check those two, and let's just make sure that we are even. This side is still a little bit longer. Let's go ahead and check that again. Okay, so now that those points are hitting right here on the exact same spot, we can proceed and start to cut that side. If I didn't check that, this side essentially could have been like a lot longer on that side, then I'd have to go back and recut this. So you always want to check and make sure you are even. That is so, so important. All right, guys, so next step, after you guys get done doing the left and the right side, I'm just gonna go through and just rough dry just a little bit with a blow dryer. I'm not really probably gonna use too much of a brush, and I'm just gonna kind of like dry it to kind of push it down, because what I really wanna do now is I wanna go through and I wanna really loosen up this bottom portion. So let's go ahead and do this now. The thing about this, guys, is that you guys really want to use the weight of the actual air to kind of push everything down right into that area. And I'm not really going for anything too perfect. I just really want to get it kind of dry. Now, what I want to do from here is I really just kind of want to soften up a lot of this perimeter. That is so, so important. Because again, you can see where we have taken everything out 90 degrees from the head. You can kind of see, again, you've got this, up around the ear, you've got this like right down through there. So really what I want to do is I want to go through and just refine this just a little bit more. Now it's still got some moisture in there. And one of my things that I like to do is that I like a texturizing scissor quite a bit because I can just go in and soften up what I need to soften up just along that perimeter. Now, what I like to do when I do this is I'm just going in and I'm just kind of like, almost just kind of like chewing right through some of these pieces just to make it a little bit more, not such a hard line right through there. And as you can see, like, you know, we cut everything fairly blunt up into this area. But what I'm doing now is I'm just kind of going in to kind of help to compress some of this hair. And what I mean by compressing it is just making it to where it's not going to live too bulbous. And what I mean by bulbous is that sometimes if you don't take out enough weight, it can look fairly, just kind of unrefined. And just by taking out a little bit of that weight right through there, you can see how it just almost kind of makes that haircut come alive a little bit more, and it makes it look not so amateur. It actually looks a little bit more professional. That's from my eyes, right? Again, and everybody's aesthetic is just a little bit different. All right, guys, so after you do this, and I'm gonna kind of show you guys, really what I'm trying to do is I'm really just trying to soften up a lot of this actual perimeter to kind of make it look like it is a grown out kind of pixie, right? If everything looks like super blunt and very refined, it's gonna look like a very fresh haircut. But when you do something like this, you'll actually see that you can create more of a lived in kind of look to it, to where it looks fairly loose without having this, you know, perfect kind of shape to it. Now, what are we gonna be doing with the actual top? If you were going to look up a long pixie, there's so many variables when it comes to how is this top area going to look. Well, I mean, some of the things that I've seen have gone from like short to long in the front. I mean, that would essentially be like a triangular graduation myself. But I mean, really what I wanna do is make it traditionally look like it would be like a grown out pixie. We'll have maybe a little bit of length in front, but not like a ton. You know, it'll have a little bit more length on top, but it's not gonna be a disconnection. And a disconnection would essentially be to where these pieces don't necessarily blend into this. Now, it might be a little bit more disconnected kind of in the front area, like it'll kind of overhang just a little bit right through here. But let's go ahead and start shaping up this top portion right through here. Now, how we want to start this, guys, is that you could essentially start this in a mohawk section. If you had a side part, you would just probably want to take a mohawk section wherever your side part was. So if your side part, if you're looking in this mirror, if your side part was right over here or right over through here, you would take a little bit from your left, a little bit from the right as well. Let's just imagine that she's parting it in the center and I'm taking a little bit from the left, a little bit from the right. I'm sorry, right, left, yeah, come on. Opposite here. Now I'm gonna follow this all the way around, right? We're not gonna leave any bit more length right through that. So I'm gonna follow this around, shortening up. Now you can see where this is gonna be my guide for the short hair. And so we're just gonna be connecting these 2 points, especially right here and back, just right like that. Now, as you think about this, it's going to just kind of cruise up just like this, and then it's gonna have a little bit more length in that front area. So that's exactly how this is gonna look. All right, guys, so as you guys can see, you know, as you leave a little bit more length right around that front area, you can actually have something to kind of play with, whether it goes left or right, depending on if you have a side part or not. So now I'm just gonna go in, I'm gonna do kind of a very similar drying style that I did before on that bottom portion, you know, because again, like I'm okay kind of bringing out a little bit of that natural texture. So let's go ahead and do that now. And you're just gonna see, again, I'm gonna be using my fingers, I'm gonna be using the weight of the actual air to kind of push this down. So as you guys can start to see, again, like I'm not really trying to perfect the blow drying, right? Because I'm still gonna go in and kind of remove a little bit of weight, but you can actually see how some of this really cool texture and how some of this disconnection, and again, disconnection slightly kind of like right here in this front area because this kind of overhangs over top of like those shorter sides. But having to compress some of those like shorter sides in there, you can see how it makes it kind of lean and modern. Because you could actually see how if we didn't remove that weight, it could take us back to kind of like maybe like the early 80s, you know, which is not a bad thing, but again, this just modernizes a look like this. So keep that in mind when you are doing something like this. And what we're gonna be doing, going in with a razor, right? Now, I really like using a razor on dry hair. Some people would be like, oh my gosh, don't do that. Again, this is all personal preference, guys. If you guys have a blade that's sharp, you can use it on dry hair. If your blade is not sharp, don't use it on dry hair, okay? Because it's just gonna rip and pull the texture of the hair. We're working on a mannequin head, so I'm not really worried about that as well, but I do have a fresh blade in there, and it's gonna make it to where it's not going to rip and pull on that hair. And I'm just gonna kind of go in and I'm really just gonna kind of surface, you know, cut right through here. Now what surface cutting is gonna do is it's going to allow us to remove some of this hair through here and lightly, you know, just kind of like lightly make it to where we can actually kind of start to see through some of that hair. And I'll take that same thing out and I'll kind of pull it out just like so. And I'm really just kind of starting to just kind of remove some of this hair in through here, right? Now, I still think some of this is a little bit long, so I can kind of go in right through here and grab a piece of like some of this, like that one little piece of hair. I can cut this open right here in front. She can kind of have some of this right to the side, just like that, which is awesome. I can remove just a little bit more right from that piece so that doesn't look so crazy. But you can already start to see how you're starting to remove, you know, some of that main bulk that falls in front. Now, it's kind of funny, if I was gonna leave it really thick, you know, you'd be like, oh my gosh, that's like the Kate plus 8. Yeah, no, we don't wanna do that at all. If you know what I'm talking about, that girl had like the most horrible hair ever. But again, it went from like really short and she had like this skater Tony Hawk, like, you know, long looking like front, and it was like super thick. I think she put extensions in it. Again, that's just my personal opinion. I thought it was not the most kind of appealing, but really what I'm trying to do is kind of remove that kind of thing to where you can start to lighten up some of this and it starts to look really feminine. You can start to see the eyes coming through. This is all something that it's by touch and it's by feel and visual. So you're visually kind of looking at it and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to remove a little bit here, a little bit more here and there. And I'm not going to cut all of these like long bits off. As you guys have seen from some of my other videos, I like having some long bits in there to really kind of play with, to where I can really start to manipulate with product afterwards. And what I mean by that is that by kind of twisting and kind of playing with some of this hair, you know, if she had ears, she could kind of tuck it. But again, you can see how kind of fun that is when not everything is cut to that same length. So now that I've kind of like softened this up and kind of given this like this very lived in, but kind of choppy kind of front, you know, like as I really kind of dig what is happening through here, I'm just gonna come in and lighten up just a little bit of this top portion. I've done this before in some of my other videos, and I'm just going through with a texturizer that removes about 50%. So as I take up a section, it is going to literally remove like 50% of that one little section. Now, there's a lot of people with some thick hair and they have some hair that they can actually lose. If you have kind of a finer textured hair, medium to finer textured hair, I probably wouldn't recommend going in with something that aggressive. You know, you can still remove, you know, weight in your hair. You just want to kind of be careful on how much weight you remove in your hair. So I'm going to actually show you something. You guys might not have like tried this, but I'm actually going to be using a gel. I'm going to be using a gel on dry hair. Now, the cool thing about using a gel on dry hair is that number one, you're going to get shine, you're going to get instant pieciness, and you're going to get like a texture that's going to hold, which is actually pretty darn cool. You know, because a lot of times people think using a gel on just wet hair, but no, let's use a gel on dry hair, okay? Now, when I go through with something like this, again, I'm very, very light in my approach. And as you can start to see, the cool thing about this is that as I start to kind of put this gel in here, it's already really kind of starting to dry, and you can, again, get this like really cool looking kind of texture with it. It's almost like, you know, spraying your hands with like a hairspray and then using that, which is actually also kind of another cool way to use a product, which is kind of fun. You know what I mean? But the really cool thing is that you can use this to your advantage to really kind of bring out a cool amount of texture, which is kind of, you know, really kind of what we're all about these days, is creating something that's got, that kind of looks different from everyday traditional looks. And you can kind of like start to kind of twist out some of these pieces down through here. All right, guys, thanks for checking out today's video, cut by a lumberjack. You know, how does a lumberjack know how to cut a long pixie? I don't know, it's because maybe I'm a lumberjack of hair. That was a machete you guys saw before. So I hope you guys, again, enjoyed today's content. Thanks for dealing with, you know, just me in general. But my name is Jake Thompson Hair. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and do that. If you haven't liked it, if you haven't commented, you know, I read all the comments. I might probably be the worst at commenting back, but I do read them. I am gonna try and up my game and respond to you guys. So thanks for doing that. I will see you guys in the next video.